The desert stretches endlessly, a vast ocean of golden sand swallowing the horizon under a scorching sun. It's a place where time itself seems to stand still, where the wind whispers secrets of civilizations long vanished beneath the dunes. Picture this: beneath your feet, hidden for centuries, lie the remnants of empires that once thrived in these barren lands, their stories waiting to be uncovered. What forgotten cities slumber under these sands? What untold mysteries are etched into the very rocks and ruins that dot this ancient landscape? Today, we're embarking on a journey into the heart of the desert's greatest enigmas, unraveling 25 secrets that have puzzled historians, archaeologists, and adventurers for generations. There's something undeniably magnetic about the desert. It's not just the harsh beauty or the relentless silence, it's the lingering sense that something extraordinary is buried just out of sight. Legends speak of lost treasures, cryptic symbols carved into stone, and entire cities swallowed by shifting sands. From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the enigmatic ruins of Petra, the desert has always been a keeper of secrets, guarding its truths with an almost deliberate cruelty. Why did these civilizations rise and fall? What drove them to build such monumental structures in the most unforgiving environments on Earth? The answers are as elusive as the mirages that dance on the horizon, but each clue we uncover pulls us deeper into the mystery. This isn't just a history lesson, it's an invitation to step into the footprints of explorers who risked everything to uncover the desert's hidden truths. Imagine standing at the edge of a newly discovered tomb, the air thick with dust and anticipation, as you're about to lay eyes on artifacts untouched for millennia. That's the thrill we're chasing. Over the course of this video, we'll delve into 25 astonishing revelations, from bizarre archaeological finds to theories that challenge everything we thought we knew about these ancient cultures. Some secrets will leave you in awe, others might send a chill down your spine. But one thing's certain: by the end, you'll see the desert not as a wasteland, but as a living archive of humanity's most fascinating and forgotten stories. Ready to uncover what the sands have been hiding? Let's begin. Deep in the heart of the Rub al-Khali, the vast and merciless empty quarter of the Arabian Peninsula, lies one of the desert's most tantalizing mysteries, the lost city of Iram. Known as the Atlantis of the sands, this fabled metropolis was said to be a place of unimaginable wealth, its towering pillars adorned with gold, its streets lined with treasures beyond counting. But its splendor came with a price. Ancient texts, including the Quran, speak of Iram's downfall, a city so consumed by arrogance that it was swallowed by the desert as divine punishment. The Ad tribe, its inhabitants, were said to have been wiped from the earth, leaving behind only whispers of their existence. For centuries, explorers and scholars have been obsessed with uncovering Iram's ruins. Some believe it was a real city, possibly a hub of the incense trade, buried beneath the shifting dunes. Others argue it's purely mythical, a cautionary tale woven into the fabric of Arabian folklore. But in the 1990s, satellite images revealed strange, geometric patterns in the desert, ancient roadways and settlements that matched descriptions of Iram. Could these be the remnants of the lost city? Archaeologists have since uncovered fragments of pottery, tools, and even inscriptions pointing to a once thriving civilization, yet definitive proof remains just out of reach. What makes Iram so compelling isn't just the mystery of its location, it's the layers of legend that surround it. Bedouin storytellers still speak of travelers who claim to have glimpsed its ghostly outline in the haze of a desert mirage. Some say the wind carries voices from the past, faint echoes of a forgotten people. Whether Iram was real or merely a parable, its story forces us to confront the fragility of human ambition. The desert, after all, is the great equalizer, a force that can erase even the mightiest of kingdoms without a trace. If Iram does lie hidden beneath those sands, its secrets may hold the key to understanding how entire civilizations rise, fall, and vanish into myth. While the Nazca Lines of Peru have captivated the world with their massive, intricate designs visible only from the air, they are far from the only mysterious markings etched into our planet's deserts. Scattered across the globe, hidden in some of Earth's driest landscapes, lie other astonishing geoglyphs, some even older and larger than their Peruvian cousins. Take Chile's Atacama Desert, for instance. Here, hundreds of massive figures stretch across the barren terrain, depicting humans, animals, and strange geometric patterns. Some of these creations span over 300 feet, dwarfing many of the Nazca figures. Unlike the Nazca Lines, which were made by removing dark stones to reveal lighter soil beneath, the Atacama glyphs were crafted by piling stones, creating raised outlines that cast shadows visible for miles under the harsh desert sun. Then there's Saudi Arabia's Mustatil's enigmatic rectangular stone structures dating back over 7,000 years. These sprawling formations, some stretching longer than a football field, appear in clusters across the desert, their purpose still hotly debated. Were they ancient cattle shrines, as some archaeologists suggest, or celestial calendars aligned with the stars? The sheer effort required to build them hints at something far more significant than mere landmarks. Unlike the Nazca Lines, which many believe served astronomical or ritual purposes, the Mustatils seem tied to the spiritual practices of early nomadic cultures, offering a window into humanity's first attempts to tame and understand the vast, empty landscapes around them. What binds these distant desert creations together isn't just their scale, it's the unanswered questions they leave behind. Who were the people who designed these colossal works, knowing they'd never see them in their entirety from the ground? How did they achieve such precision without modern tools or aerial views? And why did cultures separated by oceans and millennia feel compelled to leave their mark in the same way by transforming the desert itself into a canvas? Some theories point to ancient star maps, while others suggest these glyphs were offerings to gods or boundaries for sacred spaces. But perhaps the most haunting possibility is that these desert drawings were never meant for human eyes at all. Could they be messages or warnings meant for something or someone else? The answers, like the shifting sands themselves, remain just out of reach. High above the deserts of Jordan, captured by satellite imagery, stretches a network of stone structures so vast they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. These are the desert kites, not man-made flying objects, but cleverly designed hunting traps built thousands of years ago. Picture massive V-shaped stone walls, some stretching over a mile long, narrowing into enclosed pits at their apex. These weren't fences or fortifications, they were death traps for gazelles and other migrating animals. Ancient hunters would drive entire herds into the wide open mouths of these stone funnels, then chase them toward the deadly bottleneck where spears or archers lay in wait. The scale of these structures is staggering, with some kites large enough to corral hundreds of animals at once. Dating these enigmatic constructions has sparked heated debates among archaeologists. Some argue they originated in the Neolithic period, around 8,000 years ago, when hunter-gatherers transitioned to more organized societies. Others point to evidence suggesting they were refined much later, possibly by Bronze Age civilizations. What's undeniable is the sheer coordination required to build them. These weren't the work of isolated tribes, but of communities working together across generations. The kite's precision speaks to an intimate understanding of animal behavior and landscape manipulation that rivals modern engineering, yet the desert kites raise unsettling questions. Why did ancient peoples invest such effort into these elaborate traps when simpler hunting methods existed? Some researchers believe the kites hint at large-scale communal hunts, possibly tied to rituals or seasonal gatherings where surplus meat was traded or stored. Others suggest they reveal a darker truth that overhunting may have contributed to the extinction of certain species in the region. Walking among these silent stone arteries today, it's hard not to feel the weight of that paradox. The same ingenuity that allowed humans to thrive in the desert may have also thrown its delicate balance into chaos. The kites stand as monuments to both human resourcefulness and the unintended consequences of our ancestors' survival strategies. Strangely, similar structures appear as far away as Armenia and Saudi Arabia, suggesting this technology spread across ancient trade routes like an early form of shared knowledge. That raises another tantalizing possibility. Were the desert kites humanity's first collaborative megaproject, a prehistoric blueprint for how civilizations would later tame even harsher environments? The stones don't give up their secrets easily, but one thing is clear. In the relentless expanse of the desert, survival has always been a collective effort. These haunting stone scars on the landscape remind us that long before cities or empires, it was cooperation and the clever manipulation of nature that let humanity carve out a place in the world's most inhospitable corners. Scattered across the windswept dunes of Egypt's Great Sand Sea lies one of the desert's most baffling natural wonders, Libyan Desert Glass. This shimmering yellow-green substance, as translucent as finely crafted jewelry, shouldn't exist. Unlike ordinary glass formed from volcanic activity or human craftsmanship, this material was born from something far more violent. Picture holding a piece in your palm, its surface pitted and frosted by centuries of sandstorms, yet still radiating an otherworldly glow under the desert sun. How did vast fields of this fragile glass come to rest in one of the most remote corners of the Sahara? The answer might lie in the skies above, or just possibly in the hands of an ancient civilization wielding forces we still don't fully understand. The leading theory points to a cataclysmic event 29 million years ago, a meteorite or comet exploding so violently in Earth's atmosphere that it superheated the sand below into a swirling sea of molten silica. When the firestorm cooled, it left behind scattered sheets of glass, some chunks weighing as much as 50 pounds. The sheer energy required for such a transformation is staggering. Temperatures would have needed to exceed 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than the surface of some planets. But not all the pieces fit. Unlike typical impact sites, no crater has ever been found nearby, leaving scientists to debate whether the glass formed from an airburst or a glancing strike that left no trace. Then there's the tantalizing connection to ancient Egypt. Among the treasures of Tutankhamun's tomb was a pectoral ornament featuring a scarab carved not from gemstone but from Libyan desert glass. How did the pharaoh's artisans over 3,000 years ago even know of this material's existence? The nearest deposit lies hundreds of miles west of the Nile, deep in uninhabited wasteland. Some researchers speculate the glass was traded along forgotten routes, prized for its celestial origins. Others go further, suggesting ancient Egyptians witnessed the impact event itself, passed down as myths of gods hurling fire from the heavens. But the most controversial theory, that the glass is evidence of prehistoric advanced weaponry. Ancient texts from multiple cultures describe weapons capable of melting sand and turning cities to glass. Could these be garbled accounts of real technology or merely poetic exaggeration? While mainstream archaeology dismisses such claims, the coincidence is unsettling. The glass's distribution, stretching across hundreds of square miles, doesn't neatly match known impact patterns. Was nature alone responsible, or is there a lost chapter of human history buried in those shimmering fragments? Every piece of Libyan desert glass is a time capsule holding secrets of unimaginable heat and pressure. Modern scientists can replicate its composition, but never its exact structure. Something about that ancient cataclysm remains beyond our grasp. Whether born from cosmic violence or something more enigmatic, this desert glass stands as a reminder that Earth's past might be far stranger and more dramatic than we've dared to imagine. In the arid cliffs near the Dead Sea, where the air shimmers with heat and the rocks seem to whisper with age, a young Bedouin shepherd named Muhammad Ed-Dee Hib stumbled upon something extraordinary in 1947. While chasing a stray goat, he tossed a stone into a cave and, instead of the expected clatter, heard the sound of breaking pottery. Inside those hidden chambers, tucked away in clay jars for 2,000 years, lay what would become known as the Dead Sea Scrolls, the oldest surviving copies of the Hebrew Bible, along with texts that would rewrite our understanding of ancient Judaism. This accidental discovery in the Qumran caves ignited a treasure hunt unlike any other, revealing secrets that had been sealed away since the time of Christ. The scrolls weren't just fragile parchment, they were a time capsule. Written between the 3rd century BCE and the 1st century CE, they included nearly every book of the Old Testament, some word for word identical to modern versions, proving the astonishing accuracy of biblical transmission over millennia. But the real surprises came from the non-biblical texts, hymns, community rules, and apocalyptic visions attributed to a mysterious Jewish sect called the Essenes. These ascetic desert dwellers, who may have hidden the scrolls as Roman armies advanced, lived in self-imposed exile at Qumran, dedicating themselves to ritual purity and the study of sacred texts. Their writings reveal a radical fringe of Judaism, one that saw itself as the true remnant of Israel, waiting for a coming cosmic war between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. Archaeologists have since uncovered 12 caves holding scroll fragments, but the desert hasn't given up all its secrets. Recent expeditions using drones and thermal imaging have pinpointed over 20 potential caves still unexplored, some with tantalizing clues. In 2017, researchers found a 13th cave containing blank parchment and storage jars, suggesting looters may have beaten them to the prize centuries ago. Meanwhile, newly deciphered fragments continue to surface, including a controversial text referencing a wife of God, challenging traditional views of ancient Jewish theology. What makes the Dead Sea Scrolls so electrifying isn't just their age. It's the unresolved questions they raise. Why did the Essenes choose these remote caves? Were they safeguarding knowledge or hiding it from enemies? Some scholars argue the scrolls represent a broader library, possibly smuggled from Jerusalem's doomed temple before its destruction in 70 CE. Others believe the caves served as a kind of ancient geniza, a sacred dumping ground for worn-out holy texts. The hunt isn't over. Modern adventurers scour the Judean desert's labyrinthine canyons, knowing any crevice could hold the next great discovery. Infrared technology has revealed hidden ink on seemingly blank fragments, and scholars now use DNA analysis to match parchment scraps like a 2,000-year-old jigsaw puzzle. With an estimated 70% of the caves still unexcavated, the next jar, or revelation, could be just one stone's throw away. The Dead Sea Scrolls remind us that even in the most barren landscapes, history has a way of hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to emerge from the shadows. Beneath the sun-baked plains of modern Iraq, where the Tigris and Euphrates once nurtured the cradle of civilization, archaeologists made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the academic world. A tomb believed to belong to none other than Gilgamesh, the legendary king of Uruk and hero of humanity's oldest surviving epic. The claim, if proven true, would bridge myth and history in a way few discoveries ever have. Imagine standing at the edge of that excavation site, where layers of dust and time separate us from a figure who has lived in the imagination for over 4,000 years. Is this really the resting place of the man who sought immortality, or is it another tantalizing dead end in the search for our shared past? The clues began with a cuneiform tablet unearthed near the ancient city of Uruk, bearing a cryptic passage. The builder of the Great Wall, the king who walked with gods, lies where the twin rivers whisper. This poetic description matched details from the Epic of Gilgamesh, where the hero's burial is said to be beneath the waters of the Euphrates. In 2003, a German-Iraqi team, using ground-penetrating radar, identified an anomalous structure deep beneath the desert, a monumental brick vault aligned with celestial markers, its walls inscribed with fragments of the epic itself. The chamber's location, beneath what was once the river's ancient course before it shifted millennia ago, seemed to eerily fulfill the prophecy. yet skepticism shadowed the discovery. Many scholars argue that Gilgamesh, even if based on a historical ruler, remains a mythological composite, a symbol rather than a single man. The tomb's inscriptions, while compelling, use phrases found in later copies of the epic, raising doubts about their age. Some suggest the site could be a memorial shrine built by later kings to honor the legend. Others point to the political climate of 2003 when the excavation began, questioning whether the timing was coincidental or if the discovery was expedited for symbolic purposes during Iraq's upheaval. What makes the debate so fascinating isn't just the tomb's potential authenticity, it's what the search reveals about our relationship with ancient stories. Gilgamesh's epic, with its themes of mortality and legacy, resonates precisely because it blurs the line between history and myth. If this is his tomb, it would mean the hero king's fear of being forgotten was unfounded. His name has outlasted empires. But if it isn't, the very act of searching for him underscores how deeply these narratives shape our understanding of the past. The excavation site remains shrouded in secrecy, partly due to ongoing instability in the region. Satellite images show guarded trenches and temporary structures, hinting at work continuing away from public scrutiny. Meanwhile, newly deciphered tablets from the Babylonian period describe rituals performed at a House of Gilgamesh, possibly a cult site honoring his memory. Could this tomb be part of that tradition, or does it hold physical evidence, a sarcophagus, artifacts, or even the remnants of the plant of immortality he famously sought? Until more evidence emerges, the desert keeps its secret, but one thing is certain: whether literal or symbolic, Gilgamesh's tomb reminds us that some legends refuse to stay buried. In the vast silence of Egypt's eastern desert, where the golden sands meet the endless sky, lies an artwork so massive it defies comprehension, a colossal spiral stretching over 1 million square feet. This is Desert Breath, a modern enigma etched into the earth in 1997 by a team of artists and architects. From the ground, it appears as strange patterns, conical mounds, and precise depressions, but from above, the truth reveals itself. A hypnotic, double-spiral design radiating outward like a frozen whirlpool, a mirage-given form. What drives humans, ancient and modern, to transform barren landscapes into canvases for their grandest visions? The creators, three artists calling themselves the St. Artim, described Desert Breath as a meditation on infinity and the desert's timeless nature. Built using nothing but displaced sand and careful geometry, the installation was designed to erode slowly, surrendering to the wind over decades. But here's the eerie parallel. Though modern in origin, its spirals echo the same universal patterns found in petroglyphs and ancient geoglyphs worldwide. Compare it to Peru's Nazca Lines or Saudi Arabia's Mustatil, separated by millennia, yet united by humanity's instinct to reach beyond survival and make meaning in the void. Unlike its ancient counterparts, Desert Breath was never meant to be permanent. The artists knew the desert would reclaim it grain by grain, yet this impermanence is precisely what links it to the past. Ancient desert markers, whether hunting kites or ritual pathways, were often functional at first, only later becoming myth. Perhaps Desert Breath is part of that same unbroken chain, a fleeting human imprint destined to dissolve into legend. Already, satellite images show sections blurred by time, the spiral's once crisp edges softening like a fading memory. What's most haunting isn't the artwork itself, but the question it leaves hanging in the dry desert air. Why do we keep returning to these barren places to leave our mark? Is it defiance, proof that even in lifeless terrain we can create? Or is it reverence, an acknowledgement that the desert, in its indifference, is the only audience vast enough to match our ambition? The answer might lie in the sand itself, shifting between our fingers, reminding us that all human works, no matter how monumental, are just temporary whispers against the wind. Today, Desert Breath stands as a bridge between eras, a modern glyph echoing ancient impulses. As its spirals slowly vanish, they invite us to ponder what future civilizations might make of its remnants. Will they see it as art, artifact, or another desert mystery to unravel? The sands, as always, keep their counsel, but for now, this sprawling spiral remains a testament to the timeless human need to say, "I was here," even if only for a moment. Rising from Egypt's western desert like the scorched bones of the earth, the Black Desert presents a landscape so alien it feels transplanted from another world. Here, thousands of jagged volcanic obelisks pierce the horizon. Charcoal black hills eroded into surreal spires and twisted formations, their surfaces littered with dark pebbles that crunch like shattered glass underfoot. To stand among them is to step into a monochrome dream where the boundary between geology and mythology blurs under the relentless sun. The ancient Egyptians saw these obsidian sentinels as the remnants of a primordial battleground where the gods themselves once clashed. Local Bedouin tribes still speak in hushed tones of the jinn, said to dwell among these rock spirits that shift with the shadows at dusk, whispering warnings to those who linger too long. What makes this terrain so unsettling isn't just its appearance, it's the way it plays tricks on perception. From certain angles, the eroded peaks resemble crouching figures or skeletal hands clawing upward, fueling legends of petrified giants. Scholars trace these myths to the Osiris cycle, where the desert was described as the realm of chaos that birthed Set, the god of storms and disorder. Could these volcanic formations have inspired those early tales? The chemistry supports it. The hills are rich in iron and manganese, minerals the ancients associated with violence and decay. Even the rock's coloration has a supernatural explanation. Bedou in lore claims the stones were blackened by the fiery breath of jinn cast out of paradise. Modern geology tells a different, though no less dramatic story. These obelisks are the remnants of explosive volcanic activity 30 million years ago when magma surged through fissures in the Earth's crust. Over eons, wind and sand carved the hardened lava into these haunting shapes, yet mysteries remain. Why do some boulders exhibit unnatural geometric fractures, as if split by tools? And how did Neolithic tribes navigate this labyrinth with uncanny precision, leaving behind rock art that maps hidden water sources? Some petroglyphs depict humanoid figures with elongated heads standing beside the obelisks. Are these ancient encounters with the jinn or mere symbolic representations? The Black Desert refuses to be pinned down by science or superstition alone. At dusk, when temperature shifts cause the rocks to audibly crack and pop, it's easy to understand why generations believed this place was alive. Even today, guides recount stories of compasses spinning wildly and electronic devices failing without explanation. Whether these phenomena stem from magnetic mineral deposits or something less tangible, one truth endures. In this realm of shadows and shimmering heat, the line between the natural and the supernatural has always been as thin as a blade of obsidian. To walk these sands is to tread where myths were born and where they still whisper on the wind. Deep in the heart of Egypt's Gilgamesh plateau, where the desert now stretches barren and unyielding, lies a cave adorned with an impossible scene: figures frozen mid-stroke, arms outstretched as if gliding through water. These are the Cave of Swimmers, prehistoric paintings discovered in 1933 by the legendary explorer Laszlo Olmosy, whose exploits later inspired the English Patient. At first glance, the artwork seems like a cruel joke, swimmers in a land where rain hasn't fallen in millennia. But these delicate ochre strokes hold a key to one of Earth's most dramatic climate secrets, proof that the Sahara was once a lush, watery paradise. The paintings date back roughly 8,000 years to a time when the Sahara wasn't a desert at all. Scientists call this period the African humid phase, when monsoon rains transformed the region into a savanna dotted with lakes and rivers. The swimmers, alongside depictions of giraffes, hippos, and crocodiles, aren't symbolic, they're snapshots of daily life. modern satellite imagery confirms this. Hidden beneath today's dunes are the ghostly outlines of ancient shorelines and riverbeds, matching the cave art with eerie precision. One lake, dubbed the Lost Lake of the Sahara, once covered over 42,000 square miles, larger than Lake Michigan. So what turned this fertile land into a wasteland? The answer lies in Earth's wobble. Every 23,000 years, our planet's axial tilt shifts slightly, altering monsoon patterns. Around 5,000 years ago, this shift pushed rain bands southward and the Sahara began to dry. But here's the haunting part: the change didn't happen gradually. Recent sediment studies suggest the Green Sahara may have vanished in as little as 2 centuries, a blink in geological time. For the people who painted these caves, the disaster would have unfolded within generations. Imagine watching your world wither, your lakes evaporate, your animals vanish, until only the memory of water remained preserved on stone. Yet the Cave of Swimmers hints at something even more profound. Some figures aren't just swimming, they're diving, as if plunging into unseen depths. Archaeologists debate whether these scenes represent literal recreation or ritual acts, perhaps ceremonies to summon rain. Similar motifs appear in rock art across the dried-up Saharan lakes, suggesting a shared cultural response to environmental collapse. The paintings might be more than art. They could be prayers, warnings, or even survival manuals left by a people who knew their world was ending. Today, the cave sits silent, its artists long gone, but their legacy raises urgent questions. If the Sahara could flip from garden to desert so rapidly, what does that mean for our own climate future? The swimmers remind us that landscapes we think of as eternal are anything but, and that civilizations, no matter how resilient, are always at the mercy of forces far beyond their control. Their strokes across the rock are more than ancient graffiti. They're a message from the past, written in water and time. The legend of Ubar, the Atlantis of the sands, haunted explorers for centuries, a city so wealthy from the frankincense trade that its streets were said to be paved with gold, only to vanish overnight as divine punishment for its arrogance. For generations, scholars debated whether it was pure myth or a real metropolis swallowed by the desert. Then, in the early 1990s, a team of archaeologists and NASA scientists did the impossible. They found it. Using radar imagery from space, they detected faint geometric patterns beneath Oman's shifting dunes, ancient roads radiating outward like spokes on a wheel. Ground excavations revealed the truth. This was Ubar, a bustling hub where camel caravans once carried precious frankincense to the courts of pharaohs and emperors. What made Ubar extraordinary wasn't just its wealth, it was its fragility. Built atop a limestone cavern system, the city's downfall came not from war or famine, but from the very ground beneath it. As traders dug wells deeper to sustain the growing population, the water table dropped, weakening the cavern roofs. Then, likely in a single catastrophic event, the city collapsed into sinkholes, leaving only ruins and whispers. Bedouin oral traditions describe the disaster vividly. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed Ubar whole, sparing neither sinner nor saint. Modern excavations confirm this. Sections of the city's massive fortifications plunge vertically into pits, as if a giant hand had yanked them downward. The real revelation, though, came from the artifacts. Among the rubble, archaeologists uncovered frankincense burners, inscriptions in lost dialects, and even remnants of the resin itself, still fragrant after 2 millennia. These finds traced Ubar's reach across the ancient world. Frankincense from Oman's Dhofar region was worth its weight in gold, used in everything from Egyptian embalming rituals to Roman temples. Ubar wasn't just a stop on the trade routes, it was the beating heart of an industry that connected continents. Yet Ubar's discovery also forced a re-evaluation of its legend. Unlike the mythical city of limitless vice, the real Ubar shows signs of careful water management and communal cooperation. Its collapse wasn't moralistic punishment, it was a stark lesson in unsustainable growth. The same ingenuity that allowed the city to thrive in the desert ultimately doomed it. Today, standing at the edge of those gaping sinkholes, you can almost hear the echoes of a warning. Civilizations, no matter how brilliant, are only as stable as the ground they build upon. The sands reclaimed Yuba, but its story lingers a testament to human ambition and the precariousness of our greatest achievements. In the heart of the Gobi Desert, when the wind dies and the heat shimmers like a mirage, something extraordinary happens. The dunes begin to sing. Not a whisper, not a rustle, but a deep, resonant hum that vibrates through the sand and into the bones of anyone standing nearby. This otherworldly phenomenon, known as singing sands, has echoed across deserts from Mongolia to Namibia for centuries, leaving scientists and storytellers alike scrambling for explanations. What could make entire mountains of sand produce sounds that range from melodic drones to eerie, low-frequency booms? The answer lies in a perfect storm of physics, geology, and something that feels suspiciously like magic. At the core of this mystery is a simple yet astonishing process: avalanching sand. When dry, uniform grains of sand slide down the steep face of a dune, they create vibrations. As these grains collide, they synchronize, producing sound waves that amplify through the dune's structure like the strings of a giant cello. The pitch and volume depend on the size and shape of the grains. Round, polished sand particles between 200 and 500 micrometers in diameter seem to sing the loudest. But here's the catch: not all dunes have this ability. Only about 35 locations worldwide are known to host these acoustic wonders, each with its own unique voice. Some emit haunting, bass-heavy tones, while others produce sharp, rhythmic squeaks, nature's own desert symphony. Yet long before scientists unraveled these mechanics, indigenous cultures had their own interpretations. Mongolian herders spoke of the singing spirits of the Gobi, believing the dunes housed the voices of ancestors or trapped demons. In Namibia's Sossusvlei, local legends warned that the sounds were the echoes of a cursed tribe buried beneath the sands, their wails carried to the surface by the wind. Even Marco Polo wrote of hearing phantom instruments in the deserts of Central Asia, attributing the noise to evil forces trying to lure travelers off their path. These stories aren't just folklore, they reveal how humans have always sought to explain the unexplainable, especially when the very ground beneath their feet seems to come alive. Modern research has peeled back some of the mystery, but not all. In 2012, a team from the University of Paris discovered that the singing isn't just surface noise. It's a coordinated wave that travels through the entire dune, turning it into a massive resonating chamber. But why do some dunes sing while others, seemingly identical, stay silent? Some theories point to mineral composition. Quartz-rich sands appear more musical, while others suggest humidity plays a role, silencing the dunes after rain. Then there's the eerie phenomenon of booming sands, a deeper, more thunderous variant recorded in Death Valley, where the sound can last up to 15 minutes and be heard miles away. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of singing sands is their unpredictability. You can't force a dune to perform, it sings only when conditions align, as if the desert itself decides when to reveal its voice. Standing on a silent dune one moment and hearing it erupt into song the next is an experience that blurs the line between science and wonder. It's a reminder that even in the age of satellites and sensors, nature still holds secrets that defy easy explanation. The next time you find yourself in a singing desert, close your eyes and listen. That sound isn't just sand, it's the earth telling a story written in vibrations, a story we're only beginning to understand. Stretching across Namibia's arid landscape like the imprints of some ancient, invisible force, the desert's fairy circles form one of nature's most bewildering patterns. These perfect rings of barren earth, some as wide as 65 feet, dot the grasslands in near mathematical precision, a stark contrast to the surrounding vegetation. For generations, the indigenous Himba people whispered that these circles were the footprints of gods or portals to the spirit world. Modern science, however, has waged a decades-long debate over their origins, with theories ranging from ingenious termite engineering to a brutal underground battle for survival among plants. What could create such eerie uniformity in the middle of nowhere? Let's start with the termite hypothesis. Some researchers argue that sand termites, specifically Samotums alloceros, are the clandestine architects of these rings. According to this theory, the insects systematically clear vegetation around their nests, creating a water trap, a bare patch where rainfall can seep deep into the soil instead of being absorbed by plants. The termites then access this hidden moisture, turning the circle into a subterranean reservoir. Satellite images seem to support this. Fairy circles often appear in areas with termite activity, and thermal cameras have detected cooler temperatures inside the rings, hinting at stored water. Yet skeptics point out that not all circles show termite activity, and some regions with identical conditions lack the phenomenon entirely. Then there's the plant competition theory. Ecologists propose that the circles are the result of a ruthless battle for resources among desert grasses. In this survival of the fittest scenario, stronger plants suck moisture from the soil, killing weaker neighbors and creating dead zones that expand outward in perfect rings. Computer models simulating this process produce patterns eerily similar to Namibia's fairy circles. But if competition alone is the culprit, why don't these formations appear in other deserts with similar vegetation? The mystery deepens when you consider that these circles self-organize into a honeycomb-like grid, a pattern usually seen in crystal structures or beehives, not ecosystems. The folklore surrounding these circles only adds to their mystique. Across cultures, rings of barren or unusually fertile ground have sparked legends. In Europe, fairy rings of mushrooms were said to mark where mythical beings danced. Aboriginal Australians spoke of witch circles created by ancestral spirits. Namibia's Himba tell of a dragon beneath the earth whose fiery breath kills the plants. These shared myths hint at a universal human fascination with geometric anomalies in nature, a need to ascribe meaning to patterns that defy easy explanation. Perhaps the most tantalizing clue lies in the circle's lifespan. Individual fairy circles can persist for up to 75 years, appearing and vanishing with cryptic predictability. Recent studies using drone surveillance have captured the entire life cycle. A circle forms, expands, and eventually dies as vegetation reclaims it, only for a new one to emerge nearby. This cyclical behavior mirrors self-regulating systems seen in coral reefs or even human cities, suggesting that fairy circles might be a rare visible example of nature's hidden organizing principles. What makes these formations so mesmerizing isn't just their origin story, it's what they reveal about the desert's hidden intelligence. The same harsh environment that seems lifeless at first glance is actually a finely tuned stage for complex interactions between species, elements, and even mythology. Whether sculpted by termites, plants, or forces we've yet to understand, Namibia's fairy circles remind us that the desert is far from empty. It's a living puzzle, whispering its secrets in patterns we're only beginning to decode. In the scorching sands of China's Taklamakan Desert, where the very name translates to place of no return, archaeologists made a discovery that shattered long-held assumptions about ancient history: the perfectly preserved mummies of the Tarim Basin. These weren't just any mummies. With their tall statures, high cheekbones, golden hair, and striking European features, they looked like they'd wandered straight out of a Bronze Age Celtic village. Yet here they lay, buried for over 4,000 years in the heart of Asia, wrapped in intricately woven woolen textiles that still retained their vivid colors. How did people so unmistakably Caucasian end up in one of the most remote deserts on Earth, thousands of years before the Silk Road connected East and West? The first mummy, known as the Beauty of Lulan, was unearthed in the 1980s, her delicate eyelashes and braided hair astonishingly intact. Further excavations revealed an entire cemetery at Djado, where mummies rested in upside-down boats covered with cattle hides, a burial practice utterly foreign to the region. Their clothing alone was a revelation: finely crafted cloaks, trousers, and even striped leggings that resembled the garb of ancient European herders. DNA analysis later confirmed the unthinkable: these individuals belonged to a branch of the Indo-European family, genetically linked to populations from the Black Sea steppes nearly 3,000 miles away. But the real enigma lies in how they got there. One theory suggests they were part of a vast migration of early Indo-European speakers who fanned out across Eurasia around 2000 BC, bringing with them innovations like the wheel and domesticated horses. Others propose they descended from an even older population, remnants of a lost prehistoric culture that once thrived in Central Asia. The presence of ephedra twigs in their graves, a plant used in rituals from Siberia to Persia, hints at shared spiritual practices spanning continents. What makes the Tarim mummies so extraordinary isn't just their origins. It's the window they provide into a forgotten world of cross-continental contact. Chemical analysis of their teeth revealed they drank milk and ate dairy products, a staple of early European diets but rare in East Asia at the time. Some mummies were even buried with cheese, the oldest known in the world, preserved by the desert's arid climate. These weren't isolated nomads, they were part of a network that exchanged goods, ideas, and genes across unimaginable distances. Yet the mystery deepens when you consider their fate. Around 1500 BC, the Tarim mummies vanish from the archaeological record, their culture seemingly absorbed or displaced by incoming groups. Some scholars believe they may be the ancestors of the Tucharians, an ancient people who later spoke an Indo-European language in western China. Others argue they represent a dead-end branch of human migration, a lost chapter in the story of how the modern world took shape. Standing before these mummies today, their faces still eerily lifelike, you can't help but wonder, who were they really? Traders, herders, pioneers of a globalized world long before the term existed. The Taklamakan, true to its name, refuses to give up its secrets easily. But one thing is clear: these enigmatic figures rewrite the map of ancient human movement, proving that the deserts of our planet have always been crossroads, not barriers, in the epic journey of civilization. Rising from the desolate plains of northern Niger like the skeletal remains of a forgotten empire, the Djado fortresses stand as silent witnesses to a lost chapter of Saharan history. These crumbling citadels, built entirely of sun-baked mud brick, loom over the surrounding desert with an eerie grandeur, their hollow windows staring like empty eye sockets across the endless expanse. Dating back to the 13th century, these structures weren't just homes, they were sprawling urban complexes, complete with multi-story towers, intricate irrigation systems, and defensive walls thick enough to repel invaders. Who built these oases of civilization in one of the harshest environments on Earth? And why did they vanish, leaving behind only ghosts in the sand? The identity of the builders remains hotly debated. Some scholars point to the Tuareg, the legendary blue men of the desert, whose camel caravans once dominated trans-Saharan trade routes. The fortress's strategic placement along ancient trade corridors supports this theory. These were likely way stations for merchants transporting gold, salt, and ivory across the desert. Others argue the Kanuri Empire, a regional power based around Lake Chad, may have established outposts here to secure their northwestern frontier. What's certain is the builders possessed advanced engineering knowledge. The walls, reinforced with palm wood beams, still bear the fingerprints of their makers pressed into the clay, an intimate reminder of the hands that shaped them. But the real mystery lies in their abandonment. By the 18th century, the fortresses stood empty, their halls echoing with nothing but the desert wind. Climate records reveal a grim clue. The region's oases, once reliable sources of water, began drying up as the Sahara's grip tightened. Wells that had sustained generations turned to dust, forcing inhabitants to flee or perish. Yet there's another, darker possibility. Accounts from nearby Timbuktu describe waves of raids by nomadic groups during this period, violent clashes over dwindling resources. Charred beams found in some rooms hint at fires, while scattered arrowheads suggest the fortresses may have fallen not to the elements but to human conflict. Walking through Djado today is like stepping into a post-apocalyptic dream. The walls, though weathered, still show traces of decorative patterns, geometric designs and symbols once vibrant with crushed mineral pigments. In some chambers, grinding stones lie abandoned mid-task, as if their users expected to return any moment. The silence is overwhelming, broken only by the occasional scuttle of a desert lizard or the whisper of sand sifting through cracks. This isn't just archaeology, it's a cautionary tale about resilience and fragility. The builders of Djado mastered the desert for centuries, bending it to their will until the day they couldn't. Local Tuareg and Tubu tribes still speak of Djado's original inhabitants with reverence, calling them the people of the towers. Some claim their spirits linger, guarding hidden treasures beneath the rubble. Modern explorers have indeed found storerooms filled with ancient grains, their husks preserved by the arid climate, a snapshot of the fortress's final days. But perhaps the greatest treasure is the lesson Djado teaches, that even in the most unforgiving landscapes, humans will build, thrive, and leave behind monuments to their ingenuity. The desert may reclaim them, but their stories endure, etched not just in mud brick, but in the collective memory of those who came after. The next time you hear the wind howling across an empty land, listen closely. It might just be carrying echoes of Djado's lost voices, whispering secrets we've only begun to uncover. From space, the eye of the Sahara stares back like a colossal bullseye etched into the desert, a near-perfect series of concentric rings spanning 30 miles across Mauritania's barren plains. Officially called the Richat structure, this geological oddity was dismissed for decades as little more than a weathered volcanic dome. But peer closer, and the details spiral into something far more intriguing. Its symmetrical ridges, alternating between light and dark bands, resemble nothing found in nature. So why do some researchers believe this might be the most tangible clue to the lost city of Atlantis, while others argue it served as a landing beacon for ancient visitors from the stars? The Atlantis theory gained traction when satellite imagery revealed the Richat's uncanny resemblance to Plato's descriptions. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he wrote of Atlantis as a city built in concentric rings of water and land, rich in precious metals and destroyed by catastrophe around 9,000 years before his time. The Richat matches these details eerily. Its rings could be interpreted as remnants of ancient canals, while the surrounding desert is littered with fragments of copper and other metals. Even more compelling are the fossilized river channels nearby, suggesting this was once a lush, watery landscape that met a sudden, violent end. Could an earthquake or tsunami have shattered Atlantis, leaving only this ghostly imprint behind? Skeptics point out that the Richat's rocks date back hundreds of millions of years, far older than Plato's timeline. But proponents counter that the philosopher might have conflated older myths with a real, more recent disaster. Then there's the ancient astronaut angle. The Richat's sheer symmetry and visibility from space, it's one of the few landmarks astronauts used to orient themselves when passing over the Sahara, have fueled theories that it was an artificial marker. Some point to local Tuareg legends of sky people who descended long ago, leaving behind stone circles and strange artifacts. Others note that the structure aligns with certain celestial events, much like ancient observatories. But geologists offer a simpler, though no less dramatic explanation. The Richat is a natural pop-up dome, its rings created over eons as erosion peeled back layers of rock like an onion, exposing variations in hardness. The Sahara's relentless winds then sculpted the rings into their current, otherworldly precision. What makes the eye of the Sahara so magnetic isn't just the debate over its origins, it's the way it defies easy categorization. Walk its ridges today, and you'll find neither the smooth walls of a man-made city nor the chaotic rubble of pure geology. Instead, the structure exists in a liminal space between science and myth, a place where every clue seems to point in two directions at once. Stone tools scattered around its perimeter suggest humans recognized its significance millennia ago, though whether as a sacred site, a navigational marker, or something stranger remains unclear. Even modern geologists admit the Richat holds puzzles, like why its central dome resisted erosion while the rings around it wore away, or why magnetic anomalies ripple through certain layers. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between the extremes. The Richat may not be Atlantis, but it could have inspired tales of a lost civilization. It might not be an alien landing pad, but its visibility could have made it a celestial guidepost for ancient cultures mapping the stars. In the end, the eye's greatest secret isn't its origin, it's the way it forces us to confront how easily the line between natural wonder and human legend can blur. Whether shaped by time, hands, or something beyond our understanding, this desert enigma keeps watching, silent and unblinking, as the sands shift around its rings. Long before the pyramids cast their shadows over Egypt, another civilization, one we're only just beginning to understand, left their mark on the desert in a way that still baffles archaeologists. Deep in the Nubian desert, just west of the Nile, lies Nabta Playa, a dry lakebed cradling the oldest known astronomical megalithic site on Earth. This isn't just a collection of random stones, it's a meticulously arranged observatory, a prehistoric clock, and possibly even a sacred cattle cult ceremonial ground, all built over 7,000 years ago. Picture this, a series of flat, tomb-like stones radiating outward from a central slab, surrounded by smaller alignments that point precisely to the summer solstice sunrise and key star positions. The sophistication of this structure, predating Stonehenge by at least 1,000 years, forces us to rethink everything we thought we knew about early human ingenuity. What makes Nabta Playa extraordinary isn't just its age, it's the purpose behind its design. The stones align not only with celestial events but also with the arrival of monsoon rains, the lifeline of this ancient pastoral society. During the African humid phase, when the Sahara was a grassy savanna, Nabta Playa was a seasonal gathering place for nomadic cattle herders. The rains filled the playa with water, turning it into an oasis, and the people who depended on these cycles built something astonishing. They dragged 5-ton slabs of sandstone from over a mile away, arranging them into a cosmic calendar that could predict the coming of the vital summer rains. One particular stone, now called the calendar circle, contains 6 upright slabs that align with the rising sun at the June solstice, a beacon signaling the start of the wet season. But there's another layer to this mystery. Beneath the playa's surface, archaeologists uncovered something even more unexpected: the buried remains of cattle, carefully placed in ritualistic formations. These weren't butchered bones, they were intact skeletons, some adorned with ochre, arranged in ways that suggest reverence. For a culture that relied on cattle for survival, these animals may have held spiritual significance, possibly seen as intermediaries between the people and the celestial forces governing their world. The stones above and the bones below tell a unified story, a society deeply attuned to the rhythms of nature, weaving astronomy, religion, and survival into a single practice. The implications ripple far beyond Nabta Playa. Similar megalithic sites across Africa, like Kenya's Namaratunga, suggest this wasn't an isolated phenomenon but part of a broader tradition of early sky watching. Some researchers even propose that the knowledge embedded in these stones eventually migrated north, influencing the later astronomical practices of dynastic Egypt. Could the pharaoh's obsession with star-aligning pyramids trace its roots back to these forgotten desert herders? The evidence is tantalizing but fragmentary, like shards of pottery scattered by time. Today, Nabta Playa stands silent under the relentless sun, its stones weathered but unmoved. The playa no longer floods, the cattle colts are long gone, and the monsoons have shifted south. Yet this site endures as a testament to humanity's eternal quest to read the skies not just for survival, but for meaning. It challenges the arrogant assumption that advanced astronomy began with the Babylonians or Egyptians. Here, in the desolate expanse of the Nubian desert, Neolithic herders achieved something profound. They turned stones into stars and the desert itself into a gateway to the cosmos. Herodotus, the ancient Greek historian often called the father of history, recorded one of antiquity's most enduring mysteries, the disappearance of an entire Persian army in Egypt's western desert. Around 525 BC, King Cambyses II, the ruthless ruler of the Persian Empire, sent 50,000 soldiers to destroy the Oracle of Ammon at Siwa Oasis. According to Herodotus, the army marched into the dunes and never emerged. The land swallowed them whole. For centuries, scholars dismissed the story as legend, a cautionary tale about hubris and the desert's unforgiving nature. But what if it wasn't just a myth? What if 50,000 men really did vanish beneath the sands, waiting to be found? Modern searches for the lost army read like something out of an adventure novel. In the 1990s, a team led by Italian archaeologists Angelo and Alfredo Castiglione followed Herodotus' vague directions, tracing a route from Luxor towards Siwa. Their breakthrough came when they stumbled upon a series of unnatural-looking rock formations in the desert, stones stacked in ways that suggested human hands. Nearby, metal detectors pinged with hits, bronze arrowheads, a silver dagger, and fragments of what appeared to be Achaemenid-era jewelry, the most chilling find. A mass grave containing hundreds of bleached bones, many with fractures consistent with violent deaths. Were these the remains of Cambyses' doomed soldiers, caught in a sandstorm or ambushed by hostile tribes? Not everyone's convinced. Critics argue the artifacts could belong to later Roman or even World War II forces. The desert has been a battleground for millennia. But in 2021, a new clue emerged. Satellite imagery revealed faint, straight lines beneath the sand near the Gilf-Kebir Plateau, potential remnants of an ancient road. If this was the army's path, it suggests they didn't simply wander off course. They may have been deliberately misled. Ancient Egyptian texts hint at a rebel leader named Petubastes, who allegedly lured the Persians into a deadly trap, using false guides to strand them in the waterless waste. The desert guards its secrets fiercely. Sandstorms can erase footprints in hours, and shifting dunes bury evidence for centuries. Yet the persistence of the legend and the haunting discoveries hint that Herodotus might have been onto something. Walking through that stretch of desert today, you can almost feel the weight of history pressing down. The wind carries whispers of clanking armor, desperate shouts swallowed by the dunes. Whether the army fell to nature, betrayal, or some unseen force, their story endures as a reminder of the desert's power. It doesn't just hide cities and treasures, it consumes entire legions without a trace. In Egypt's white desert, nature has sculpted a scene so surreal it feels plucked from a dream, towering gypsum crystals, some as tall as a person, jutting from the sand like shards of shattered glass. These otherworldly formations, gleaming under the sun as if carved from ice, are the result of thousands of years of erosion, exposing ancient seabeds rich in gypsum. Wind and sand have polished them into smooth, twisting shapes that resemble everything from frozen waves to alien mushrooms. But to the Bedouin who have traversed this landscape for generations, these crystals aren't just geological oddities. They're the remnants of a mythical battle, an entire army turned to stone by the wrath of the gods. The science behind these crystal forests is just as fascinating as the legends. Over millennia, groundwater dissolved the gypsum beneath the desert's surface, carrying it upward through cracks in the rock. As the water evaporated, it left behind crystalline structures that grew slowly, inch by inch, shaped by the desert's relentless winds. The result, a labyrinth of translucent spires, some so delicate they ring like glass when struck. Yet these natural wonders are vanishing. Increased tourism has brought unintended consequences. Foot traffic erodes their fragile bases, and careless visitors snap off chunks as souvenirs. Conservationists now race to protect what remains, fencing off the most vulnerable formations while urging visitors to tread lightly. Bedouin oral traditions add layers of mystique to these crystal forests. One tale speaks of a pharaoh's army cursed for their arrogance as they marched through the desert. The gods, offended by their hubris, turned the soldiers to stone mid-stride, leaving their frozen forms to stand as a warning for eternity. On certain mornings, when the low sun casts long shadows across the dunes, it's easy to see why the story persists. The crystals do resemble an army of silent sentinels, their jagged silhouettes stretching across the sand. Other legends claim the crystals are the teeth of a great serpent slain by a hero of old, its fangs left scattered as a testament to the battle. The fragility of these formations only heightens their magic. Unlike resilient rock monuments, the gypsum crystals are ephemeral by nature. A single storm can topple spires that took centuries to form, and shifting sands constantly reshape the landscape. Visiting the White Desert today is like walking through a gallery of transient art, where every sunrise reveals new contours and every gust of wind rewrites the scenery. Scientists estimate that without intervention, some of the most iconic formations could crumble within decades, a reminder that even the desert's most breathtaking wonders are fleeting. Perhaps that's why these crystal forests captivate us so deeply. They exist at the intersection of myth and reality, beauty and fragility, permanence and impermanence. To stand among them is to witness a dialogue between time and elements, where the earth itself seems to whisper secrets. The Bedouins say the crystals hum when the wind blows just right, a sound like distant voices carried across the ages. Whether it's the desert's song or the echoes of a long-lost army, one thing is certain. This is a place where the line between story and stone blurs, inviting us to listen closely before the sands shift again. Buried beneath the dunes of Timbuktu, where the Niger River bends toward the Sahara, lies a treasure more precious than gold, centuries of knowledge preserved in fragile ink on crumbling parchment. The Timbuktu manuscripts, hidden for generations in desert libraries and private collections, are a silent revolution in how we understand Africa's intellectual past. These aren't just dusty scrolls, they're proof of a thriving medieval academic tradition where astronomers calculated orbits, philosophers debated ethics, and mathematicians solved equations while Europe languished in its so-called Dark Ages. Picture walking into a mud brick library under the blistering Malian sun, and pulling open a chest to find a 12th century treatise on optics, its margins filled with meticulous diagrams of light refraction. Or a legal manual detailing women's rights in 15th century Songhai, challenging every stereotype about pre-colonial Africa. This was Timbuktu at its zenith, a crossroads of learning where scholars from Cairo to Cordoba came to study, and where the desert itself became the guardian of ideas. The manuscript's survival is a miracle woven from secrecy and defiance. When jihadist groups seized northern Mali in 2012, their first targets were these very libraries' repositories of what they deemed heretical knowledge. But locals had faced such threats before. Families who'd safeguarded manuscripts for generations sprang into action, smuggling them out in fruit crates, burying them in desert caves, or hiding them in the false bottoms of fishing boats along the Niger. One librarian, Abdulkader Haidara, orchestrated a daring operation to move 350,000 pages to safety, often under cover of darkness, while militants patrolled the streets. His story reads like a thriller, bribing boat captains, disguising manuscripts as vegetables, even stacking them in donkey carts beneath layers of onions to throw off scent-tracking dogs. The jihadists burned what they found, but they never got the heart of the collection. What makes these documents so transformative isn't just their age, it's the worldview they unveil. European colonialists long dismissed Africa as a continent without written history, relying instead on oral traditions. The Timbuktu manuscripts shatter that myth. Here are tax records from the Mali Empire's golden age, proving its bureaucratic sophistication, medical texts describing cataract surgeries and quarantine protocols during plagues, star charts so precise they could predict lunar eclipses to the hour. One particularly astonishing manuscript, the Tariq al-Sudan, details Emperor Mansa Musa's pilgrimage to Mecca in the 14th century, not as the simple folk tale of a king tossing gold to crowds, but as a diplomatic mission where Musa negotiated treaties with Cairo's scholars and commissioned maps that later guided European cartographers. Yet the battle to preserve these texts continues. Humidity, insects, and the slow creep of ink-eating acids threaten to erase them forever. Modern archivists now face a race against time, digitizing pages while training local conservators in ancient restoration techniques, using everything from crushed baobab leaves to stabilized parchment to camel milk solutions that neutralize mold. Meanwhile, historians grapple with a sobering reality. An estimated 90% of Timbuktu's manuscripts remain uncatalogued, some still hidden in family homes, their contents as mysterious as the desert stars that once guided their authors. The deeper lesson of the Timbuktu manuscripts isn't just about correcting historical records, it's about who gets to define knowledge itself. For centuries, the West framed Africa through the lens of lack, ignoring the sophisticated societies that flourished south of the Sahara. These fragile pages force a reckoning. They remind us that the desert wasn't just a barrier. It was a bridge connecting Timbuktu to the Islamic world and beyond, making it a beacon of enlightenment when much of the globe still groped in shadows. Every rescued manuscript is more than a relic. It's a key to understanding how ideas traveled, how empires rose and fell, and how the thirst for knowledge has always been as human as the sand beneath our feet. In the heart of Death Valley, where temperatures soar past 120 degrees and the ground cracks like shattered glass, stones the size of watermelons slide across the desert floor as if pushed by invisible hands. These are the sailing stones of racetrack playa, a geological mystery that puzzled scientists for over a century. How could rocks weighing hundreds of pounds carve long, meandering tracks into the hard-packed clay, sometimes shifting hundreds of yards without a single human or animal disturbance? The answer, finally captured on camera in 2014, is as delicate as it is unexpected, a perfect ballet of ice, wind, and physics playing out under the cover of winter darkness. For decades, theories about the stone's movement ranged from the plausible to the absurd. Some suggested dust devils or hurricane-force winds, though calculations showed even the strongest gusts couldn't budge the heaviest boulders. Others whispered about magnetic anomalies or even supernatural forces. But the truth lies in a rare alignment of conditions so precise it might only happen once every few years. During cold winter nights, shallow pools of rainwater form on the playa's surface. When temperatures drop below freezing, thin sheets of ice begin to crystallize, not thick enough to entrap the stones completely, but just sturdy enough to form floating panels around them. Then, as morning sun warms the ice, it fractures into massive windowpane-like segments. A light breeze, sometimes no stronger than 10 miles per hour, pushes these ice sheets across the water's slick surface, carrying the rocks along at speeds slower than a crawling snail. The stones leave behind trails like signatures in the mud, some straight as arrows, others looping in sharp curves, depending on how the ice fractures and shifts. The breakthrough came when researchers equipped the playa with time-lapse cameras and GPS trackers. Footage revealed the stones moving in sudden, sporadic bursts, sometimes just a few inches over several minutes, then pausing for hours before inching forward again. What looked from a distance like smooth, continuous paths were actually the result of countless tiny nudges, ice and wind working in tandem like an unseen puppeteer. Even more fascinating, the stones don't all move at once. Their journeys depend on their size and shape, with smaller, smoother rocks gliding farther than larger, irregular ones that act as anchors in the ice. Yet the sailing stones aren't just a scientific curiosity, they're a lesson in patience and perspective. For years, visitors assumed the rocks slid during Death Valley's infamous summer heat, but the opposite is true. The desert's most famous mystery unfolds in winter's quietest hours when no one's watching. It's a reminder that some of nature's most astonishing performances happen offstage, in conditions we rarely think to examine. And while we've solved the how, there's still wonder in the why. Why this playa, why these stones? The answers, like the tracks themselves, appear only when the desert decides it's time. Until then, the stones wait, silent and still, for the next perfect alignment of elements to send them dancing once more across the cracked earth. Lop Nur, once a bustling oasis on the ancient Silk Road where camel caravans carried spices, silk, and ideas between empires, now lies eerily silent under a different kind of shadow. The legacy of China's secret nuclear tests. This remote corner of Xinjiang's desert, where merchants once haggled under palm trees, became ground zero for over 45 atomic explosions between 1964 and 1996. The transformation is staggering. Where traders once sought respite at freshwater lakes, the landscape is now pockmarked with craters, some so vast they're visible from space, their edges fused into glass by the unimaginable heat of detonations. The lakes themselves dried to salt flats, their waters diverted or evaporated, leaving behind only toxic dust laced with radioactive isotopes. The tests were shrouded in secrecy, carried out by the Chinese military under conditions so extreme even veteran soldiers later recounted horror stories. Troops stationed nearby were ordered to face away from the blasts with eyes closed and hands over their faces, yet many still suffered permanent retinal burns from the flash. Declassified documents reveal that some tests used live animals penned at varying distances to study radiation effects, their carcasses left unburied in the scorching sun. The most chilling detonation, a 4-megaton hydrogen bomb in 1967, detonated mid-air by a bomber whose shockwave shattered windows 200 miles away in the city of Korla. The mushroom cloud, photographed by secret reconnaissance planes, rose nearly 5 miles into the atmosphere, carrying fallout that drifted across borders into Central Asia. What makes Lop Nur's story so haunting is the contrast between its past and present. 2,000 years ago, this was the lifeblood of the Silk Road's northern route, a place where Han Dynasty emissaries and Roman merchants crossed paths. Ruins of the ancient Lulan kingdom still stand nearby, their wooden beams intricately carved with Buddhist and Hellenistic motifs, proof of the cultural exchange that thrived here. Today, those ruins sit just downwind of the test sites, their artifacts dusted with traces of strontium-90 and cesium-137. Scientists debate whether the relics are now too contaminated to handle safely, a cruel irony for archaeologists who once marveled at their preservation in the arid climate. The human cost remains deliberately obscured. Nomadic Aiga herders, many of whom lived within a 200-mile radius of the test zone, reported skyrocketing cancer rates in the decades that followed, leukemia clusters, birth defects, and entire families plagued by radiation sickness. Chinese authorities long denied any connection, but in 2009, a rare government report admitted to localized health impacts, quietly compensating some victims while maintaining strict silence. Satellite images tell a more damning story. Abandoned villages with radiation levels still measuring 10 times higher than normal, their empty streets scoured by sandstorms that carry contaminated particles across the region. Yet Lop Nur refuses to be defined solely by its nuclear scars. Recent expeditions have uncovered something unexpected: nature's slow reclamation. Hardy desert plants, mutated but thriving, now push through cracks in the blast zones. Wild Bactrian camels, an endangered species, have been observed drinking from shallow wells near test sites, their populations inexplicably stable. Some scientists speculate that the very remoteness that made Lopner ideal for tests has become its salvation, allowing radiation to dissipate faster than in more humid environments. The desert, it seems, is healing itself in ways we don't yet fully understand. Standing at the edge of one of these craters today, it's impossible not to feel the weight of history pressing down. The Silk Road's echoes linger in the wind whispers of languages long silenced, of caravans that moved through these sands carrying not destruction but connection. Lopner's duality is a stark reminder of how landscapes bear witness to humanity's highest aspirations and darkest choices. The same desert that once knitted civilizations together became a canvas for their potential annihilation. And yet, the sands continue to shift, burying secrets, revealing others in their endless, patient dance. Beneath the Sahara's endless dunes, hidden from view for millennia, lies a secret that rewrites our understanding of this barren landscape. Vast networks of ancient rivers, their channels long dried up but their paths still etched into the earth. These fossil waterways, known as paleorivers, once turned what is now the world's largest desert into a lush, green corridor crisscrossed with life. For decades, their existence was little more than speculation, hinted at in scattered cave paintings and the occasional discovery of hippopotamus bones in places where no water flows today. But then came a technological breakthrough, satellite radar imaging capable of penetrating the desert's surface, revealing the ghostly outlines of riverbeds that haven't seen water in over 5,000 years. One of the most astonishing of these hidden river systems is the Tamanrasset, a long-lost waterway that once rivaled the Nile in scale. Stretching nearly 300 miles from the Atlas Mountains to the Atlantic, its basin would have been a lifeline for plants, animals, and early human populations. Scientists pieced together its story using data from NASA, a space shuttle radar topography mission, which detected subtle depressions in the bedrock beneath the sand, invisible to the naked eye but unmistakable from space. These buried valleys tell a tale of dramatic climate shifts, painting a picture of a Sahara that was once so verdant it supported crocodiles and tropical vegetation. But these rivers aren't just geological curiosities, they're the missing link in the story of human migration. Researchers now believe these waterways served as natural highways, guiding early humans out of Africa and into Europe and Asia. Tools and artifacts found along these ancient routes suggest that our ancestors didn't haphazardly wander through the desert. They followed the water, settling along its banks where fish and game were plentiful. One particularly significant discovery in Sudan's Bayuda Desert revealed Stone Age tools clustered around what was once a paleoriver's bend, a prime hunting spot now buried under 30 feet of sand. The implications stretch far beyond archaeology. Some of these buried channels still hold groundwater today, a potential lifeline for modern Saharan communities grappling with drought. Projects in Libya and Algeria have tapped into these fossil aquifers, drawing water that fell as rain during the last ice age. Yet this hidden resource comes with a warning: once depleted, it won't replenish for thousands of years. The same rivers that once nurtured life now pose an ethical dilemma: how to balance survival today with preservation for tomorrow. What makes these subterranean rivers so mesmerizing isn't just their scale or their role in history, it's what they represent about the desert itself. The Sahara isn't a static wasteland, it's a landscape with memory, its past written in water and stone. Every dune hides evidence of a time when this was a land of waterfalls and wetlands, when the wind carried not sand but the scent of rain. The next time you see a desert, remember, beneath its dry surface, the echoes of rivers still flow, whispering secrets of a greener world that once was and might one day be again. Today's Sahara may be a sea of sand, but just 5,000 years ago, it was dotted with vast inland lakes so enormous they could rival the Great Lakes of North America. Among these vanished water bodies, none was more staggering than Mega Chad, a freshwater behemoth that once sprawled across what is now Chad, Niger, Nigeria, and Cameroon. At its peak, this lake covered over 150,000 square miles, making it larger than the Caspian Sea is today. Satellite imagery reveals its ghostly outline like a watermark on the desert surface, a reminder of a time when the Sahara wasn't just habitable, it was thriving. The evidence for Mega Chad comes from an unexpected source: radar altimetry data, the same technology used to map ocean floors. When scientists analyzed elevation patterns across the Sahel, they noticed a massive depression in the landscape, its contours perfectly matching ancient shorelines etched into the bedrock. Fossilized fish bones and freshwater mollusk shells found hundreds of miles from any modern water source confirmed it. This was once a living, pulsating ecosystem. Even more astonishing are the Neolithic rock paintings near the Taibsti Mountains, depicting people fishing from canoes and herding cattle along grassy banks, scenes unimaginable in today's parched wilderness. What sustained such a colossal lake in the heart of the desert? The answer lies in Earth's ever-shifting climate. During the African humid period, which lasted from roughly 11,000 to 5,000 years ago, monsoons pushed farther north, drenching the Sahara with seasonal rains. Mega Chad was fed by rivers like the ancient Komajugu Yobe, which carried runoff from the Taibsti and Enedi highlands. These waters didn't just create a lake, they fueled an entire hydrological network. Sediment cores show evidence of dense papyrus swamps along the shores, while pollen samples reveal a mosaic of acacia woodlands and grasslands teeming with wildlife. This wasn't just a lake, it was the beating heart of a green Sahara. The human story tied to Mega Chad is equally compelling. Archaeologists have uncovered harpoons carved from bone, pottery shards with wavy line designs reminiscent of fishing nets, and even dug-out canoes buried in the dunes, artifacts that paint a picture of a sophisticated lacustrine culture. One particularly striking discovery is the ruins of a settlement near modern-day Gobero, Niger, where hunter-gatherers buried their dead in ceremonial poses atop ancient shorelines. The bones tell a tale of abundance. Isotopic analysis reveals diets rich in fish and aquatic plants, a stark contrast to the struggle for survival in today's desert. Then, around 3000 BC, the waters began to retreat. As Earth's orbit shifted, the monsoons weakened and Mega Chad shrank dramatically. What remained fractured into smaller lakes, including present-day Lake Chad, which is now a fraction of its former glory. But the lake's legacy lingers in unexpected ways. The Badele Depression, once the deepest part of Mega Chad, is now the world's largest source of atmospheric dust. Each year, winds scoop up fine diatomite from the ancient lakebed and carry it across the Atlantic, fertilizing the Amazon rainforest with nutrients that once sustained Saharan fisheries. The story of Mega Chad is more than a geological curiosity, it's a warning and a wonder. It shows how fragile our climate system can be, capable of transforming a thriving water world into a desert within centuries. But it also reminds us that landscapes have memory. Beneath the Saharan sands lie not just lost rivers and lakes, but the echoes of human ingenuity, adaptation, and resilience. The next time you see a desert, remember, it might just be a lake on pause, waiting for the rain to return. In the blistering heat of Egypt's western desert, a bizarre artifact surfaced in 2016 that sent UFO enthusiasts into a frenzy. A strange metallic bracelet adorned with cryptic symbols allegedly found near the Great Pyramid. Photos of the object spread like wildfire, with claims that its material defied known earthly alloys and its markings resembled an ancient alien language. The so-called alien bracelet became the centerpiece of countless online theories, touted as irrefutable proof of extraterrestrial contact in antiquity. But the truth, as it often does in the desert, was far more ordinary and far more human. The bracelet's journey from tourist trinket to viral sensation reveals how easily myths take root in arid landscapes. Investigators traced the object back to a Cairo souvenir stall, where it was sold alongside other faux antique jewelry. The mysterious metal turned out to be a cheap copper-zinc alloy, while the alien script was nothing more than crudely etched pseudo-hieroglyphs meant to evoke Hollywood's version of ancient Egypt. Yet the hoax persists, resurrected every few years with new embellishments. Why? Because deserts, with their vast emptiness and surreal geology, have always been fertile ground for UFO lore. There's something about the desert's otherworldly atmosphere that invites speculation. The same qualities that make it a perfect setting for science fiction: endless horizons, extreme isolation. Mirages that warp perception also blur the line between reality and imagination. Consider the parallels between the alien bracelet saga and older desert myths, like the 1947 Roswell incident in New Mexico's deserts or Chile's Atacama alien mummy hoax. These stories thrive in wastelands because deserts feel like places where the rules of the ordinary world don't apply. When you're surrounded by nothing but sand and silence, it's easy to believe anything could be hidden just beneath the surface. The psychology behind these hoaxes is just as fascinating as the stories themselves. Deserts are liminal spaces, thresholds between the known and the unknown. Ancient cultures often viewed them as domains of gods or spirits. Today, they've become canvases for our cosmic anxieties. A twisted rock formation becomes a crashed UFO. A weathered artifact transforms into alien technology. Even NASA Mars rover photos are routinely analyzed by conspiracy theorists who spot anomalies in the red planet's desert-like terrain. The irony is rich. The same landscapes that trained humans to survive extreme conditions now fuel fantasies about beings who supposedly mastered interstellar travel. But the alien bracelet hoax also exposes a deeper truth about archaeology and exploitation. Deserts, especially in regions like Egypt, are often seen as exotic backdrops for treasure hunting rather than living landscapes with cultural significance. The rush to label any unusual find as alien overlooks the real ingenuity of ancient civilizations, reducing their achievements to the work of outside forces. It's no coincidence that many UFO myths emerge near indigenous sites, a modern echo of colonial attitudes that dismissed native knowledge as primitive or inexplicable. Ultimately, the bracelet story is a cautionary tale about how easily spectacle overshadows science in the digital age, yet it also highlights why deserts continue to captivate us. They're places where the boundaries between past and future, earth and sky, reality and myth feel tantalizingly thin. Whether it's a tourist's trinket mistaken for alien tech or a shimmering mirage interpreted as a spacecraft, the desert reminds us that the human mind will always find mystery in the void, even when the truth is far stranger than fiction. The shifting sands of the Sahara and Arabian deserts hold more than ancient cities and lost treasures. They cradle living cultures that have thrived in these harsh landscapes for millennia. The Tuareg and Bedouin peoples, often called the Blue Men of the Desert and the Lords of the Wilderness, have perfected survival strategies that read like a masterclass in human adaptation. Picture a Tuareg caravan emerging from a heat-haze, camels laden with salt slabs, their guides wrapped in indigo-dyed robes that stain their skin cobalt blue, earning them their famous nickname. These aren't relics of the past, they're practitioners of a living science, reading dunes like roadmaps and navigating by stars with precision that puts modern GPS to shame. What sets these nomads apart is their profound symbiotic relationship with the desert. The Bedouin, for instance, have over 40 words for different types of sand, each describing texture, movement patterns, and water retention qualities. Their legendary hospitality, enshrined in the Arabic proverb, "The guest is God's guest," stems from survival logic. In a land where water is scarce, sharing it becomes sacred. The Tuareg, meanwhile, developed the tajumust, that iconic face veil protecting against both sandstorms and evil spirits, while their intricate silver jewelry doubles as currency and emergency tools. Their Tifinagh script, carved into rocky outcrops across the Sahara, serves as both message board for traveling clans and enduring cultural signature. But the true marvel lies in their celestial navigation. Without compasses, these desert wayfarers created mental star maps passed down through generations. The Bedouin use Orion's belt to predict seasonal rains, while Tuareg guides follow the caravan star Polaris with an error margin of less than 1 degree. Their lunar calendar, synchronized with the Anwar, a system linking specific stars to weather patterns, allows them to forecast sandstorms weeks in advance. When European explorers first encountered these techniques in the 19th century, they dismissed them as superstition until Tuareg guides repeatedly rescued stranded expeditions that had relied on superior Western instruments. Modernity, however, has brought existential threats. Arbitrary national borders drawn by colonial powers in the 20th century have sliced across ancestral migration routes. The Tuaregs' traditional salt trade between Timbuktu and Agadez now requires navigating checkpoints and paperwork. Climate change compounds the crisis, with droughts lasting years instead of seasons, evaporating ancient wells that once sustained caravans. Satellite images show the once great Wadi's seasonal rivers shrinking, forcing nomads into overcrowded cities where their skills hold little value. In Saudi Arabia, the Bedouins' camel-herding traditions collide with oil pipelines and fenced grazing lands, while in Libya, Tuareg warriors who once guarded trade routes now find themselves caught between warring factions. Yet these cultures refuse to fade quietly. Some Tuareg have adapted their navigation skills to lead desert ecotours, teaching outsiders the art of reading dune patterns. Bedouin poets upload oral histories to YouTube, preserving verses once shared only around campfires. In Morocco's Dra Valley, nomads use solar panels to power freezers for medicinal plants, blending ancient herbal knowledge with modern tech. Their resilience offers lessons for our climate-challenged future, proof that flexibility and tradition can coexist. When a Bedouin elder was asked how his people endure, he simply gestured to the desert and said, "We listen when the land speaks." In their wisdom lies a truth we're only beginning to grasp. The desert doesn't conquer, it teaches, and its most enduring students may yet have secrets to share. From lost cities swallowed by dunes to celestial calendars carved into stone, these 25 secrets reveal something extraordinary. The world's deserts aren't barren wastelands. They're vast open-air museums preserving humanity's most astonishing stories in sand and rock. Think about it, every grain of sand holds traces of vanished civilizations, cosmic cataclysms, and ingenious survival strategies. The deserts have been archivists silently guarding truths that rewrite history, whether it's the Tarim mummies appending migration theories, the Dead Sea Scrolls unlocking ancient theology, or the singing sands proving even landscapes have voices. But these wonders are fragile. The same dryness that preserved Timbuktu's manuscripts for centuries now threatens them as humidity creeps into once stable climates. Looters chip away at Nabta Playa's megaliths, while off-road vehicles scar the tracks of Death Valley's sailing stones. Even the desert's own rhythms are shifting. Climate change silences dunes that once sang, and rising temperatures bleach the white desert's crystal forests to dust. Protecting these sites isn't just about nostalgia, it's about safeguarding pieces of the human puzzle we haven't fully assembled yet. Who knows what unanswered questions lie buried beneath the next dune? That's where you come in. Maybe you've stood in a desert and felt that whisper of mystery, the sense that the sands know more than they're telling. Share your theories in the comments. Do you think the Richat structure hides Atlantis? Could the fairy circles be nature's own crop circles? Your perspective might spark the next big discovery. And if these 25 secrets left you hungry for more, hit that subscribe button. Our next adventure is already brewing, a journey to unravel the riddles hidden in the world's deepest jungles. The earth is full of stories waiting to be told. Let's uncover them together.